pretend you are with me." The profound voice of High Alpha Cassius Blackthorn sliced through the air like a blade, his hand extending towards Nora, who consumed cold remnants, concealed behind a marble pillar. The grand ballroom of the Silver Bloom estate fell into an immediate hush. 300 elite guests watched, spellbound and horrified, as the North's most potent figure rescued the unawakened Omega from her own sister's wedding feast. But why would a king perform such a pivotal act for a mere unknown? And what transpires when pretense unravels, becoming too profoundly real to disregard? The opulent aroma of black truffles and roasted lamb permeated every inch of the Silver Bloom estate's majestic ballroom, mingling with the costly perfumes of high society ladies and the polished leather scent of alphas in their formal attire. For Nora, that olfactory symphony was a refined torture, each inhalation a stark reminder of all she could never possess, of all that had been cruelly denied her since birth by a cruel genetic irony. At 24, she was more than a simple genetic anomaly within a family of purebred werewolves. She stood as a perpetual living testament to imperfection within a lineage that boasted 300 years of unblemished blood. An unawakened Omega in a family where even 5-year-old children already manifested unmistakable signs of their lupine nature. Eyes that gleamed golden when excited, small canines that elongated subtly when frustrated, territorial instincts already well developed. Nora was the stain upon the Ashworths' pristine reputation, the shame whispered in shadowed corridors, and the reason other elite clans occasionally questioned the absolute purity of their ancestral lineage. At social gatherings, she had become the daughter who was simply unwell, or who had traveled to tend to an ailing aunt. Any pretense that might circumvent an explanation for why the eldest progeny of such a distinguished family was never seen in public. "Do not gaze directly upon her," she overheard a feminine voice conspiratorially murmur near the elaborate table laden with imported sweets. "I overheard my mother declare that it is contagious, this deficiency, that it might be some insidious familial curse." "Poor parents," responded another voice, filled with false compassion that barely veiled morbid curiosity. "Imagine the devastating social humiliation of having such a daughter within the family. At least Elena has compensated by being absolutely perfect in all aspects." Nora feigned deafness, her gaze fixed upon the hypnotic sway of the couples dancing at the hall's heart, moving as if actors in an elaborately choreographed play. Her younger sister, Elena, twirled at the epicenter of the celebration like a porcelain doll upon a gilded carousel, enveloped in yards of pearl-hued French silk that had cost more than most working families earned in an entire year of arduous labor. Her golden tresses were ensnared in elaborate, artfully sculpted curls, adorned with genuine seed pearls imbued with the very essence of roses, capturing and reflecting the shimmering luminescence of the colossal bohemian crystal chandeliers suspended from the vaulted ceiling. Her every motion possessed the ethereal grace of a seasoned prima ballerina. Each smile was as luminous as the dawn itself, every peal of laughter crystalline, like silver bells caressed by a tender breeze. Marcus Silverton, her betrothed, was literally everything an ambitious aristocratic family could desire in a son-in-law. Youthful yet mature at 26, impossibly affluent due to inheritances of fertile lands and thriving commercial enterprises, influential enough to wield a formidable voice within the regional council, and boasting a lineage so utterly impeccable that his family tree could be traced without blemish, back to the kingdom's original founders. He gazed upon Elena as if she were a goddess descended directly from the Olympian heights to bless mortals with her divine presence, and Nora felt a pang of envy so acutely lacerating that it rendered her physically breathless. It was not a specific jealousy directed at Elena herself, but rather a profound, aching envy for the entirety of the existence Elena embodied. A life of acceptance, love, familial pride, boundless possibilities, and a guaranteed brilliant future. Her own gown, a functional, unadorned garment of navy cotton that had been borrowed from Elena's personal attendant, for she possessed naught fitting for such a formal occasion. appeared even more starkly humble and woefully inadequate under the romantic, golden light of the magnificently appointed hall. Though pristine and meticulously pressed, of that she had ensured, it remained strikingly unadorned against the yards of imported silk, sumptuous velvet, and delicate lace that graced every other woman present at the gala. Even the consorts of the less affluent regional merchants wore gowns that commanded 10 times its paltry worth, jewels that shimmered like ensnared stars, and footwear crafted by the hands of acclaimed artisans. Nora felt akin to a mendicant infiltrating a palatial assembly, ever poised for her inevitable discovery and public expulsion. Her mother, Lady Catherine Ashworth, had delivered her whispered instructions with icy clarity an hour before the banquet commenced, in the chilly, deserted service corridor near the kitchens, where only domestics traversed. Her green eyes, so genetically akin to Elena's yet frigid as glacial jade, had pierced Nora's very soul as Catherine carefully adjusted heirloom pearls about her own throat. Pearls that represented a treasured family legacy spanning 4 generations, but which would, under no conceivable circumstance, ever adorn her flawed daughter. Ensure the buffet remains impeccably provisioned. Discreetly gather any broken goblets before esteemed guests perceive and are discomfited. And by all ancient and sacred deities, remain unseen and unacknowledged by anyone of social or political import. Catherine's voice was venomous, as arsenic steeped in sweet wine, each word meticulously chosen and honed like a blade to carve deeper into her daughter's already fractured spirit. Keep always to the deepest shadows. Maintain your head perpetually bowed in submission. Avoid all eye contact. Your very presence here is a generous concession I question daily and regret granting. Catherine had allowed a dramatic pause, letting the venom of her words fully permeate Nora's spirit before delivering the final crushing blow. The sole reason you are not currently imprisoned within your chambers is that it would prove even more socially mortifying, potentially damaging to our family's reputation to repeatedly explain to curious guests why our eldest daughter is neither present nor visible at her younger sister's betrothal. Your absence would provoke inconvenient inquiries we prefer to circumvent. Yes, Mother, Nora had automatically murmured, the familiar words of subservience issuing from her lips, devoid of conscious thought, a conditioned reflex honed by years of systematic degradation. Brutal psychological conditioning had taught her that swift, unquestioning agreement significantly curtailed the verbal abasement her mother genuinely relished. And Nora, Catherine had added, her voice adopting an even lower, more menacing tone, gripping her daughter's arm with enough force to leave bruises that lingered for days, her perfectly manicured nails digging into her delicate skin through the borrowed gown's thin fabric. Should any truly influential guests inquire about you, which I sincerely doubt will occur, but should it, you are merely a distant, inconsequential family cousin, voluntarily assisting with household duties, out of kindness. Is that perfectly clear? The grip tightened agonizingly, perfectly manicured nails gouging deeper into her flesh like miniature blades. Understood, Nora had repeated mechanically, feeling an additional piece of her soul wither and die a little more, like a delicate flower being repeatedly trampled until it became dust. Now, strategically concealed behind the ornate marble columns like a child playing hide-and-seek, she fulfilled her designated role with the mechanical perfection honed through years of painful practice and forced conditioning. With a plate of cold scraps precariously balanced on her trembling knees, uneven pieces of bread left over from the morning's preparation, already beginning to harden, a small portion of artisanal cheese, starting to dry and crack at the edges exposed to the air, imported grapes that were losing their natural sweetness and turning slightly tart. She observed the social spectacle through the narrow gaps between the elaborate decorations. Each crystalline peal of laughter echoing through the hall was like a sharp blade piercing her heart. Every effusive, good-humored toast was a renewed, intentional dagger thrust into her self-esteem, already utterly shattered by years of constant rejection. She watched distant cousins who barely acknowledged her when they met in the cold, shadowed corridors of the family manor, now dancing joyously as if they hadn't a care in the world, drinking the finest wines imported from distant regions, partaking of the most refined delicacies prepared by renowned chefs especially for the occasion. Is she truly here tonight? She heard the sharp, nasal voice of Lady Morningstar, a close and equally cruel friend of her mother's, cleave the air like a saw. I thought Catherine had finally come to her senses and decided to send her away permanently, perhaps to a convent in distant lands. Unfortunately, she is still among us, replied the familiar, disdainful voice of her Aunt Patricia, her father's younger sister, who had always resented Nora's being born first and technically possessing inheritance rights she deemed undeserved. At least she has the basic good sense to hide in the shadows where she belongs. Imagine the devastating social scandal if the Silvertons discovered Elena has a sister, like that. The unspoken words hung in the perfumed air like invisible yet lethal poison. Defective, abnormal, shameful. A blemish upon the family's perfection that ought to be forever concealed. Nora closed her eyes for a long, painful moment, feeling the familiar, hated tears burn behind her eyelids like acid. Through endless years of systematic social ostracism and constant familial rejection, she had developed ingenious and necessary defense mechanisms for her own psychological survival. The most crucial and effective recourse was the bitter, nauseating brew of rare and elusive herbs she religiously prepared each morning before dawn, a complex and carefully balanced concoction of wolfsbane, diluted to be merely mildly toxic rather than lethal, dried lavender harvested under the full moon for maximum potency, and an exceedingly rare herb named moonbell, found only on the highest, most inaccessible mountain slopes, where the air grew so thin it defied easy breath. The bitter potion utterly suppressed her natural omega scent, rendering her olfactorily non-existent, imperceptible to the dominant alphas who might otherwise detect her innate presence and potentially demand her immediate expulsion from pivotal social gatherings. It served as her personal cloak of invisibility, her sole reliable shield against the even more explicit and publicly humiliating rejection that would undoubtedly ensue were her true nature discerned. Yet, Nora's meticulously cultivated invisibility faltered before the predatory gaze of a singular individual within the Grand Hall. High Alpha Cassius Blackthorn, the feared High Alpha of the North, was not present to solemnize matrimonies, nor to forge romantic alliances. At 32, he stood as a living legend, a man who had claimed the throne at 18 following the suspicious demise of his parents. The consolidation of his power had been both brutal and definitive. In the nascent years of his reign, he had crushed 3 coup attempts, personally executed 2 traitors, and expanded the borders of his dominion through ruthless diplomacy and unyielding force when necessitated. Whispers of a burgeoning rebellion on the frontiers demanded his personal vigilance. He needed to ascertain the fealty of the southern clans, to pinpoint potential betrayers before they could inflict damage upon the stability he had meticulously forged with blood and unshakable resolve. Seated in the ornate chair prepared for his imposing stature, he observed the social theater with the patient vigilance of a predator studying its quarry. The impeccably tailored suit he wore cost more than the annual income of most families present. His scarred hands rested in a deceptive repose, yet any individual possessing refined instincts could discern the coiled tension beneath his seemingly relaxed musculature. It was during a moment of profound tedium, while enduring a corpulent merchant's boasts of burgeoning profits, that his keen gaze apprehended subtle movement within the shadows. He observed the trembling hand of a young woman raise a piece of bread to her mouth, saw the unshed tears in her eyes, and recognized the bearing of one conditioned to believe she merited no space in the world. That fleeting vision resonated with an ancient wound within Cassius. His own early life had been indelibly marked by the brutal tutelage of his regent uncle, a man who had endeavored to shatter the young prince's spirit through calculated humiliations before he could ascend the throne. Injustice ignited a cold fury in his chest. He rose slowly, his height silencing the hall instantly. The tangible aura of raw power emanating from him compelled proud alphas to instinctively lower their heads. Strolling towards the dim corner where Nora huddled, He disregarded the shocked murmurs trailing him. Reaching her, he extended his large, scarred hand. "Pretend you are with me," he whispered, his tone absolute, promising unwavering protection. The thermal shock of Cassius's warm hand on Nora's chilled skin marked the night's first seismic event. Drawing her into the light, the king not only saved her from obscurity, he silently declared war on her family. He seated her beside him at the head table, poured wine, and conversed as if a vital diplomat, ignoring her parents' horrified stares. Nora's father, Alpha Arthur Ashworth, attempted to intervene, a nervous smile suggesting Nora return to her duties. But Cassius's low growl froze blood within a 30-foot radius. The evening concluded with Cassius taking Nora, asserting he required a local consultant for border negotiations, a diplomatically acceptable falsehood, her safe passage from that house. What Nora did not know was that her departure had triggered a clock. The herbal brew she consumed was diminishing, and without it, her true nature was on the precipice of revelation. The initial weeks in the Northern Dominion felt akin to awakening in an entirely different realm, where known societal strictures simply did not apply. Blackrock Keep, carved into the Everfrost peaks like a fortress forged by the very gods of war, breathed ancient history and absolute power. Its thick walls had withstood centuries of bloody conflicts, its soaring towers pierced the clouds like spears aimed at the heaven's heart, and its long, echoing corridors resonated with the phantasmal footsteps of generations of high alphas who had governed with an iron fist and an unbreakable will. For Nora, accustomed to the gilded, excessively adorned halls of her family's silver-bloom estate, where every surface shimmered with gold, every alcove housed a costly statue, every wall displayed portraits of prominent ancestors, the majestic, functional austerity of the royal keep was simultaneously as intimidating as an approaching storm, and as strangely liberating as drawing clean air for the first time. There were no fragile, expensive furnishings she feared shattering with a careless movement, no irreplaceable Persian rugs she meticulously avoided treading for fear of staining them, no delicate crystal and porcelain ornaments her unfitting, clumsy presence might inadvertently damage, inviting further humiliation and chastisement. The accord forged between Nora and Cassius appeared deceptively simple on its surface, much like most covenants involving human hearts. Nora would convincingly feign the role of his official protégé, a young woman of minor but respectable lineage, whom he had magnanimously decided to patronize for vague reasons related to royal charity and social responsibility. This careful and constant performance would automatically deter the ambitious and calculating suitors whom the royal council perpetually pushed upon him as chess pieces on a political board. Firstborn daughters of powerful dukes commanding their own legions, direct heiresses of commercial empires dictating pivotal trade routes, princesses of allied dominions whose marital unions could seal advantageous military treaties, all equally interested in the golden crown that would automatically come with the marriage, not the man who wore it. In exchange for this theatrical yet convincing performance, after exactly 6 months of mutual pretense, Cassius would personally guarantee her complete financial independence through an exceedingly generous dowry that would permit her to live comfortably for the rest of her life, in addition to a carefully constructed new social identity that would allow her to establish herself anywhere she chose to live, utterly free from her family's controlling grasp and with sufficient resources to never again depend on anyone. But Blackrock Keep rapidly revealed itself to be a far more perilous environment, politically intricate and socially treacherous, than any simple contract could adequately address or foresee. Lady Vespera Nightshade emerged as the foremost and most manifest peril to Nora's well-being. As an alpha female of an ancient and proudly aristocratic lineage that could trace her genealogy back to the Northern Dominion's foundational settlers, she had spent the entirety of the last 5 years of her adult life meticulously weaving an intricate and almost invisible web of strategic political alliances and subtle social influence, all laser-precisely aimed at a singular, consuming objective: to ascend to the station of Queen of the North through a precisely calculated marriage to Cassius. She was stunning in a cold and predatory manner, reminiscent of a venomous serpent. midnight black tresses perpetually styled in elaborate coiffures that demanded hours of specialized maid's labor, violet eyes that seemed constantly to appraise the political and social worth of every individual she encountered, a svelte and perfectly proportioned figure, perpetually clad in imported silks and opulent velvets that commanded small fortunes and made subtle yet unequivocal pronouncements regarding her immense wealth and elevated status. Transcending mere beauty or wealth, Lady Vespera's intellect was a honed, merciless instrument. Her ostensibly casual remarks were verbal daggers, exquisitely sharpened. Her superficial courtesies, veiled snares waiting to be sprung, and her political influence stretched like unseen tendrils to profoundly important members of the royal council who swayed the destinies of millions. How profoundly interesting that our beloved High Alpha has chosen a protégé so humble and unassuming. She had purred during Nora's inaugural formal dinner at the keep, her voice a costly honey laced with concentrated venom, potent enough to fell in subtle draughts. It is truly admirable and touching when those of elevated social standing feel morally and socially obligated to aid the less favored by life. Nora, accustomed through years of arduous survival to far more direct and brutally honest verbal assaults from her own kin, had merely offered a serene smile, the poise of one who had weathered far fiercer tempests, and responded with a sweetness equally laced with peril. It truly is admirable. I have discovered that true nobility of character invariably reveals itself in genuine compassion and humility, not in hollow arrogance or needless ostentation. The fleeting glint of murderous fury that briefly pierced Vespera's perfectly adorned violet eyes had served as Nora's first invaluable lesson in the mortal perils of underestimating the supposedly humble and innocuous protégé. In the days and weeks following that ostensibly cordial first encounter, Nora began to discern disquieting and revelatory patterns in the behavior of those around her. Retainers murmured hushed conversations and abruptly ceased speaking upon her unexpected appearance, as if discussing secrets she was not meant to overhear. Grave discussions amongst the nobility swiftly veered to trivial topics when she innocently entered a room, as if her mere presence constituted a security risk. Official documents were hastily gathered and concealed when her presence was detected by individuals who clearly harbored something to hide. Her systemic social invisibility, once a bitter, aching curse throughout her family life, unexpectedly transmuted into her paramount strategic advantage within the politically charged milieu of the royal keep. No soul rendered genuine or significant heed to the silent, ostensibly innocuous Omega, who seemed perpetually occupied with trivial domestic duties, such as arranging ancient tomes within the sprawling library or offering tea and confectionaries during minor administrative convocations. They spoke freely and without caution before her, automatically assuming she was too socially and politically inconsequential to pose any real threat to their schemes and conspiracies, too witless to comprehend the import of what she overheard, too insignificant for anyone to credit her words should she attempt to expose anything. It was precisely in this manner, through such underestimated invisibility, that she uncovered the elaborate and systematic scheme of diverting vital medical supplies, a heinous plot literally claiming the lives of innocent souls for naught but avarice. During one particularly frigid afternoon, as snow descended in large hypnotic flakes beyond the ancient windows, whilst she meticulously and voluntarily catalogued venerable and precious manuscripts within the military history section of the Royal Library, a task she had embraced, for she reveled in delving into bygone eras and found purpose in the endeavor beyond mere ornamentation. She overheard Lord Aldrich Greystone, heralded as one of Cassius's most personally and politically trusted advisors, discussing prices in a hushed yet distinctly audible tone with a man she did not recognize, yet whose opulent attire bespoke of elevated social standing. "Have the essential remedies for treating mountain fever arrived with this week's caravans?" the stranger inquired, his voice laced with an anxiety that struck Nora as strangely disproportionate for a query concerning routine medical provisions. "They arrived precisely as stipulated, yet the fiscal landscape has shifted precipitously," Aldrich replied, his customarily deferential voice now imbued with a barely veiled avarice that caused Nora's stomach to rebel with profound revulsion. The demand within the impoverished mountain hamlets is desperately acute this year due to the harsh winter season. I can easily command thrice the original sum on the shadow market if we divert these to clandestine traders instead of distributing through sanctioned conduits. And what of the official distribution recorded in the palace ledgers? Simple and untraceable. We shall officially attest that the caravan was beset by a cadre of brigands during its journey through the northern pass. Half the consignment shall be officially forfeited in the fabricated assault, whilst the remainder will be publicly disseminated to preserve the semblance of our dutiful performance. None ever question brigand attacks at this time of year. They are too commonplace to arouse suspicion. Nora felt her very blood turn to ice in her veins, as though she had plunged into a frozen tarn. Mountain fever was a ravaging seasonal malady that preyed upon with particular virulence against young children and the frail elderly, precisely those who possessed the least means to afford exorbitant prices on the shadow market. Without proper and timely medical treatment, the mortality rate was devastatingly high, frequently reaching 50% or more in isolated communities. And that monster dressed in fine raiment, was deliberately and consciously sabotaging the treatment that would save innocent lives, all for personal profit and despicable greed. It took 3 full days for her to muster enough courage to approach Cassius directly about what she had discovered. 3 days of agony over whether she should speak, whether he would believe her, whether she had the right to involve herself in matters that were technically none of her concern. Finally, she found him in his personal study, an impressively imposing chamber lined from floor to ceiling with ancient tomes and intricate maps, featuring a grand fireplace large enough to warm an entire house, and dark timber furnishings that exuded authority and power. He was pored over complex trade documents, the dancing firelight creating dramatic shadows that played across his stern yet alluring profile, making him appear like a warrior king stepped directly from ancient legends. "Your Majesty," she began hesitantly, her voice more tremulous than she desired due to the combination of nervousness and moral indignation. "May I speak with you about something important? Something that involves the safety and well-being of your people?" He slowly lifted his gaze from the documents, and for the first time since her arrival at Blackrock Keep, she truly noticed how expressive and profound his eyes were when they were not carefully guarded by his public mask of royal authority. Dark green like ancient, deep forests, with speckles of gold that seemed to capture and reflect the dancing firelight like fragments of sun trapped within emeralds. "Of course you may. You always may. Sit and tell me what troubles you." She recounted everything she had overheard, every specific detail she had managed to memorize, every nuance of the conversation etched into her mind. As she spoke, she watched his expression gradually harden like stone, the cold, controlled fury she had only glimpsed at Elena's banquet swelling in his eyes like a devastating storm gathering on the distant horizon. When she concluded her detailed account, the silence in the chamber was thick and heavy like dense fog, charged with a dangerous energy that made the air feel electrified. "Are you absolutely and unquestionably certain of what you overheard?" he asked finally, his voice controlled but perilously low, the type of tone she imagined he used before ordering executions. "Yes, Your Majesty. Every word, every inflection. I can repeat the entire conversation verbatim if necessary." He rose from his chair with a slow, deliberate grace, imbued with the lethal control of a predator who had just fixed upon its quarry. "Aldrich Greystone served my father with unwavering loyalty before he served me. I entrusted him with the very lives of my people, with decisions that swayed the fates of thousands of families." The past tense of trusted resonated with the undeniable gravity of a death sentence already decreed. Nora swallowed hard, suddenly acutely aware of the vast implications her revelation had set into motion. "I did not wish, that is, I did not intend to cause." "You have saved lives," he interjected with an unyielding certainty, turning to face her fully, his expression intense yet devoid of accusation toward her. "Innocent children shall live because you possess the moral fortitude to speak when silence would have offered ease and safety. Never, under any circumstance, apologize for upholding what is right when others have chosen the path of wrong. That very night, even before the sun dared to ascend, Lord Aldrich Greystone was discreetly apprehended within his private chambers. The vital medicines were immediately recovered and properly distributed to the communities that desperately languished for them. And the fundamental dynamic between Nora and Cassius shifted, irrevocably. He ceased to perceive her merely as a well-intentioned philanthropic endeavor or a decorative pawn in his political machinations, instead acknowledging her as a genuinely invaluable ally, a trusted fount of intelligence, a soul whose moral discernment he held in profound esteem. More than that, he began to envision her as an individual whose counsel he genuinely valued, whose insights he actively sought, whose presence rendered his administratively arduous and solitary days less barren and his nights less frigid and melancholic. In the 3rd month, the relentless winter brought forth the first profound upheaval. A snowstorm isolated Blackrock Keep for 2 weeks. Without access to the herbs for her omega scent-suppressing brew, Nora fell gravely ill with a mysterious fever no healer could abate. Cassius personally undertook her care, keeping vigil for 3 consecutive nights. The healers remained utterly perplexed. The fever soared too high to be natural, yet it yielded to no known treatments. It was as though her very being was locked in a titanic struggle against an intrinsic metamorphosis. On the 3rd night, as the fever crested to its apex and convulsions racked her form, Cassius held her tightly against his chest. "Do not leave me," he murmured, words he had never imagined he would utter. "Please, Nora, do not abandon me." It was in that harrowing instant that the fever incinerated the chemical barriers within her blood. The aroma that then saturated the chamber was overwhelming. Night-blooming jasmine mingled with summer rain, sweet as wild honey. The mate bond erupted between them with devastating force. She was his destined companion. Yet, with the euphoria surged terror. She was his singular vulnerability. Any foe discerning their bond held the ultimate weapon for his ruin. Beyond even this, he yearned for her unfettered choice, devoid of biological compulsion. With a will forged through decades of leadership, Cassius made the arduous decision to conceal their sacred bond until she stood prepared. Nora's convalescence brought nascent clarity. She perceived the subtle shift, the electric tension when Cassius entered a chamber, yet ascribed it solely to burgeoning gratitude and a unilateral attraction. Determined to be more than a decorative ward, she embarked upon rigorous studies, not physical combat, but politics, administration, diplomacy, and economics. Guided by a shrewd mentor Cassius designated, she flourished. The Omega, who once subsisted on scraps, now eloquently debated trade routes and proposed sagacious administrative reforms that impressed even the most cynical of the High Alpha's council. This fragile serenity shattered when her family, learning through insidious spies that Nora now wielded influence over the High Alpha, journeyed north to demand her return, alleging abduction. The confrontation within the hallowed throne room proved brutal. Her father, Alpha Arthur Ashworth, attempted his Alpha's command, endeavoring to force her to her knees. Yet for the first time, Nora resisted. Her inner wolf, dormant through years of suppression, awakened with an aura of absolute serenity that nullified her father's command. She was a royal Omega, a rarity capable of neutralizing Alpha aggression. The revelation of her status, however, attracted perils far greater. Lady Vespera Nightshade, perceiving Nora as an existential threat, orchestrated an accident during a ceremonial hunt. Through meticulous sabotage, she caused both Nora and Cassius to plummet into a deep ravine, far removed from the royal guard. Cassius, grievously wounded by a poisoned arrow and incapable of rapid healing, found himself vulnerable for the first time in decades. It was Nora who sustained them both through 3 harrowing days in the frigid darkness, utilizing botanical knowledge to procure antidotes and her body heat to keep him warm. Within that dark cavern, feverishly delirious, Cassius confessed their mate bond. He admitted he had known for months they were destined companions. This confession wounded Nora profoundly. She felt betrayed, as if her choice had been stolen anew, as if his honesty had been but a conditional offering. Rescue arrived, yet their trust lay irrevocably fractured. Back at Blackrock Keep, the High Alpha's council demanded Cassius choose a queen immediately to stabilize the Dominion. They presented falsified evidence alleging Nora had conspired with attackers, implying she was a planted spy. The trial was decreed for the winter solstice. Nora found herself alone in the brutal center of the tribunal, much as at her sister's wedding, isolated, condemned, encompassed by pervasive hostility. Yet something fundamental had profoundly shifted within her. This time, her head remained unbowed. With courage she had never known, she presented the meticulously corrected ledgers she had reformed, unveiled Lady Vespera Nightshade's insidious network of corruption, and defiantly challenged the High Alpha's council to find anyone who loved the Dominion and its High Alpha more sincerely than she. It was not her discourse that saved her, but Cassius's dramatic action. He descended from the throne, tearing through ancient protocol, and knelt before her on the cold marble, not as High Alpha, but as a man before the woman he loved more than life itself. He offered his bared neck, the ultimate sign of submission among werewolves, transferring all authority of the judgment to her. If she accepted him, she would accept the Dominion and all its responsibilities. Nora, tears glistening in her eyes, delicately touched the ancient scar on his neck. The mate bond exploded in golden light visible to all, undeniable, sovereign, sacred. She did not merely accept him, she publicly claimed him. "I choose you," she whispered. "Not because of the bond, but because you are the man I love. And I choose these people, this land, because together with you I can be stronger than I ever imagined." The subsequent High Alpha's claiming ceremony was far more than a mere formal political event. It was the sacred and celebrated union of two shattered souls who had found complete healing and renewed purpose in each other, together forming something infinitely stronger, more resilient, and more beautiful than either could have been alone in their former lives of isolation and sorrow. The ceremony unfolded within the ancestral Grand Hall, a majestic space that had witnessed coronations for 5 centuries. Its ancient stone walls were adorned with tapestries narrating the Dominion's history, with golden and silver threads, and the light filtered through vibrant stained glass windows cast kaleidoscopic patterns on the polished marble floor. Representatives from dozens of distant lands journeyed for weeks to behold the occasion, some driven by political curiosity, others by diplomatic obligation, yet many genuinely intrigued by the extraordinary tale of the Omega, who had captured the heart of the North's most feared High Alpha through the sheer force of her character. As Nora entered the hallowed hall, resplendent in a ceremonial gown of deep blue velvet, embroidered with silver threads depicting constellations marking the night of her birth, a reverent silence descended upon the gathered multitude. The crown she would wear was an ancient masterpiece, a delicate yet potent tiara crafted from white gold and adorned with sapphires that had belonged to the most revered queens in the Dominion's history. The culminating coronation banquet was deliberately orchestrated to mirror the initial event where they first met, but this time, the symmetry was perfect and intentional in its complete inversion. Nora was no longer concealed within the dark shadows, partaking of cold scraps and feeling profoundly unworthy of her place in the world. Instead, she sat proudly and serenely at the head of the royal table, radiating a natural dignity and an inner strength forged through trials that would have shattered lesser souls. Her presence commanded genuine respect even from the most arrogant and prejudiced nobles, who now treated her not merely with obligatory courtesy, but with true admiration for her extraordinary journey. Her family, the same Ashworths who had spent years humiliating her and attempting to render her invisible, were invited solely by strict and mandatory diplomatic protocol, observing from a table strategically positioned at the rear of the hall, far from the place of honor. For the first time in their lives, they were beginning to grasp the devastating and irrefutable truth that true royalty never stems from blue blood, or automatically inherited titles, but from individual character, genuine compassion for the suffering of others, and the indomitable spirit of consistently serving something far greater than one's own selfish interests. Lady Catherine, her mother, was visibly discomfited in her distant chair, occasionally casting furtive glances toward the daughter she had rejected as defective, and who now wore a royal crown. Her green eyes, so similar to Elena's yet always cold when directed at Nora, now carried a complex melange of belated regret, ill-concealed envy, and a bitter understanding that she had utterly squandered the opportunity to claim a queen as her daughter. Alpha Arthur Ashworth, her father, appeared to have aged a decade in mere months. The man who had once sought to wield his alpha's command to compel Nora into submission now meticulously avoided making eye contact with her, clearly cognizant that his parental authority had been permanently superseded by the superior royal authority of his once rejected daughter. Elena, astonishingly, seemed genuinely joyous for her sister. During the ceremony, she had applauded with sincere fervor, and when she greeted Nora after the coronation, she had whispered an emotional apology for the years of passive neglect. "I should have spoken up," she admitted, tears glistening in her blue eyes. "I should have defended you. Forgive me." High Alpha Cassius Blackthorn held Nora's hand firmly throughout the elaborate banquet, his fingers possessively yet tenderly intertwined, as if he still secretly feared she might vanish like a dream too beautiful to be real, were he to release her for even a fleeting moment. Every few minutes, he would lean in to whisper something intimate into her ear, causing her to chuckle softly or blush delicately, creating private moments of profound connection amidst the public ceremony. When the moment for the traditional coronation toast arrived, Cassius rose slowly, his imposing height causing the entire hall to automatically fall silent in respectful anticipation. His voice, when he finally spoke, carried a profound and genuine emotion that echoed through every corner of the magnificent hall, reaching even the servants who discreetly gathered at the doorways to witness the historic moment. "Noble guests, honored allies, loyal subjects," he began, raising his golden goblet for all to see. "Today we celebrate not merely a coronation, but a transformation. In finding my queen," he said, turning his intensely green eyes directly to Nora, "I not only found my fated mate, I found my lost soul, my renewed strength, and my reason to be a better, wiser, and more compassionate High Alpha than I ever thought possible." He paused, allowing his words to penetrate the consciousness of all present. "She taught me that true power comes not from inspiring fear or demanding submission, but from inspiring love, loyalty, and respect through consistent actions and unwavering character. She showed me that true strength lies not in never falling, but in always rising, no matter how many times the world tries to cast us down." The entire hall rose in a deafening and heartfelt ovation, goblets clinking in enthusiastic toasts, but for Nora and Cassius, deeply lost in each other's intense gaze, only the two of them existed in the entire known universe. Later that magical night, as the official formalities finally concluded and guests gradually retired to their quarters, the royal couple found themselves alone on the private terrace, bathed in the glow of the full moon. Snow fell softly around them, like a silent blessing from the ancient gods, creating a private and intimate world where only they existed. They danced slowly beneath the ancient and eternal stars, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization, as if they had danced together for 1,000 previous lives. The music came only from their hearts beating in unison, a natural and primal rhythm that connected their souls in ways that transcended the biological mate bond. "Why did you choose me that night?" Nora finally asked. The question that had burned in her heart for months, at last, finding voice in the safety and intimacy of the moment. "Why did you risk everything? Your reputation, your political authority, the stability of your dominion, for a complete stranger who had nothing to offer?" Cassius gently ceased dancing and cupped her face between his large, calloused hands with an infinite tenderness that sharply contrasted with his fearsome reputation as a relentless warrior and when necessary, a brutal leader. Because, he whispered, his voice hoarse with profound emotion, I instantly recognized in you the same fundamental pain I carried. The ache of being rejected by those who should have loved unconditionally. The torment of feeling unworthy of love or acceptance. And because, even before knowing we were destined by the gods, I already knew instinctively that you were the only person in the entire world who could genuinely make me want to be more than just an efficient king. You made me want to be a man truly worthy of being loved by someone as extraordinary as you. They kissed beneath the star-dusted mantle of the eternal heavens, two surviving souls who had found not only the passionate love they had secretly yearned for, but also complete redemption, total healing, and the promise of a future forged upon foundations of mutual respect, absolute trust, and unwavering devotion. And somewhere within the comforting shadows of Blackrock Keep, observing discreetly through the frosted pane windows, loyal retainers whispered thrilling tales they knew would become immortal legends, of the courageous Omega who ascended to queen not through political machination or arranged matrimony, but through the pure, unyielding strength of her compassionate heart, and of the solitary, hardened High Alpha, who learned that true transformative power emanates not from inspiring fear and subjugation, but from igniting genuine love, willing loyalty, and renewed hope within the hearts of his people.